Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And today's show, we're going to be looking at some Raiders trade candidates before or during the 2025 NFL Draft. We're less than a week away from the draft, and right now a lot of the conversations that have been popping up around the silver and black have been, maybe this player could be moved on from. Maybe that player could be moved on from. So today, I'm going to tell you which 5 players are the most likely to be dealt from the moment I'm making this video right now to leading up until during the NFL Draft. On top of that, I'm going to also be breaking down 5 trade ideas of why I would say that team's going to make the deal for the Raiders players. If you don't already know, I want you to hit that subscribe button. We will be live for the entire 2025 NFL Draft. We had almost 300,000 people tune in last season, live for nearly 21 hours over the course of those 3 days. If a trade happens before the draft, I will go live. Also, just keep in mind, I am going to be with my family this weekend. It's Easter weekend, so if any breaking news does happen, it's going to be Chuck and I out in the woods, so it's going to be pretty lit. And if you're looking for free Raiders analysis around draft, trades, this is going to be the channel for you. Let's go to the very first player here. They're not ranked. I'm just talking about different guys that I think could be traded before the NFL Draft or during it. And we got to go with the most maybe obvious name out there, at least. When I was live on Friday during Friday Happy Hour, the name that had the most votes in terms of which Raiders player is the most likely to be traded during the draft was, in fact, Aidan O'Connell. There was a report that came from Vic Tafer that said that the Raiders are looking for a day 3 pick for AOC. The Raiders are expected to draft a quarterback, and they can literally draft a quarterback at any time, according to Pete Carroll and John Spytek. I am a believer that a QB ends up getting picked on day 3, round 4, round 5, round 6, round 7. Maybe it's a name like Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, no matter who it is, they would end up competing with Aidan O'Connell. A trade for the Raiders ends up saving us $903K. Whoop-de-doo for the silver and black. The new team would end up taking on $1.2 million, and for AOC, somebody that's got 20 games played, 17 starts, at $1.2 million, Aidan O'Connell does have a lot of value. I've also sat up here and said on this, I wouldn't trade AOC, which might surprise some people out there. Now, again, you're going to give me a 4th-round pick? Yeah, I'm going to trade Aidan O'Connell. But if you're not going to give me a worthwhile offer, I'm okay with the idea of hanging on to Aidan, a very capable backup behind Geno Smith, competing with a young rookie, because Aidan O'Connell, in my mind, would make a rookie quarterback better. And if, God forbid, if Geno Smith were to get hurt, you'd have Aidan O'Connell to be able to step in and allow that rookie to continue to learn. Because we don't want to happen. Geno gets hurt, now your rookie's being thrown into the fire, then why the hell do we even draft him? You know what I'm saying? So here's the trade that I have cooked up here. Pittsburgh Steelers trade for Aidan O'Connell and for a 6th-round pick at 185. The reason why I have the Steelers here, they don't have a quarterback. They're picking at 21. The reports are that the Shedeur Sanders could fall to Pittsburgh all the way down to 21. That's a real report. But according to Aaron Wilson, the Steelers and Shedeur Sanders' meeting was like a disaster. And there's been a lot of NFL teams that have said they're very turned off by Shedeur, and he could fall out of round 1. If the Steelers are going to go into the season with Mason Rudolph as their quarterback, what happens if Aaron Rodgers retires? We don't know if he's going to play for Pittsburgh. And if the Steelers get an inkling that that could happen, I think that Aidan O'Connell is better than Mason Rudolph. Just saying. That's the trade that I think could happen. Let's go to the next position here, and it's going to be Michael Mayer at the tight end position. I will admit that I don't know how likely a trade is going to happen, but I do think that there also has to be a other team being interested, right? Like, there's going to be somebody that's probably like, why isn't Zamir White in today's show? Well, Zamir White's not in today's show because I don't know how many teams want to trade for Zamir White. But the Michael Mayer trade rumors, let's be honest, they've been swirling all offseason. Hell, they were swirling last season during the NFL trade deadline just because of how much time Mayer missed. We know that Brock Bowers is going to be the Raiders tight end, one of the future, and that's just not a knock on Mayer. It's we have the best tight end in the National Football League, and that's just how it goes. But I do know that there could be some teams out there potentially interested in Mayer. A trade for the Raiders, you save $653K, but you end up eating $1.9 million. And I know that Mayer has struggled through 2 years of his career. That's a true statement. But also at the same time, bad quarterback play, different head coaches, different offensive coordinators, different quarterback coach. I mean, it's been so many different moving parts. The one stable part has been the Raiders tight end coach, Luke Steckel, who is regarded as one of the better tight end coaches in the NFL. Honestly, the way that I would think about Steckel is almost like kind of the way that I would talk about Rob Leonard, very, very well-respected tight end coach. But if there is a team that's still looking for a tight end, in terms of a tight end one, that team is the Indianapolis Colts. And I know that the Colts just recently brought back Mo Alley-Cox, somebody that I talked about a few times this offseason. But for the Raiders, I think you get a 5th-round pick for Mayer. The Colts end up getting Mayer. All the trades that you are seeing are not trades that I'm saying I would do. Today's show is more around why a player could get dealt and a fair, honest, overall draft compensation of what a team would offer for Michael Mayer right now or during the NFL draft. So this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, and I want to know which Raiders player on our roster as it stands right now, and I am recording this video on April 18th when we are live. Who is the most likely to be traded during the NFL draft? My answer is going to be coming up right here after this YouTube ad break. I believe the player that is the most likely to be traded by the Las Vegas Raiders on draft night is actually Aidan O'Connell. And I say that because quarterback, we've seen quarterbacks move, though I could also make an interesting case for Thayer Munford, who's also actually a player that I don't talk about today, but if a team is willing to offer the Raiders a 7th-round pick in 2026, then a Thayer Munford trade I do think could end up happening. Let's go to offensive line, and we're going to go to the big name. I'm going to go with Kolton Miller, and there's been a lot of Kolton Miller trade rumors going on right now, and maybe they are deserving so, maybe they are not deserving so. There is a lot of smoke. I'll say this. I don't know how much fire is going on around that smoke. He does want a new contract, and if he doesn't get one, he will be traded. The reason why Miller, though, is on this list is because he is still one of the top offensive tackles in the NFL. And I do think with Armin Membu and Will Campbell going in the top 10, both players, I don't want to say 100% both players are going to go in the top 10, but I would be shocked if both players don't go in the top 10. I think both players could end up going, honestly, in the top 7. And if teams know that and they're like, well, if we're going to miss out on those offensive tackles, but we still need an offensive tackle, Kolton Miller could be a name to keep in mind because if you're a team and you go, well, I could just trade for Miller. I only got to pay him $12.3 million. Yeah, you're going to have to also give him a contract extension on top of that. But it's a more than fair deal for a 29-year-old who's going to be 30 years old, who's been one of the most consistent offensive tackles over the past 4 seasons in the National Football League. I'll tell you which team I think is the most likely to trade for Miller, and I'll show you the trade here in just a moment. But today's show, sponsored by Game Time. And I mean, look at this. Michael Mayer fired up about Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I love me some Game Time, and I think that the nation will too. And I also love this time of the year. Playoffs, they're here, and whether it's the NBA, the NHL, baseball, love it all. If you're trying to go to your favorite sporting event, Game Time, it's the app for you. Last-minute tickets and zone deals, views from all the seats in the venue, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, and even job loss protection. Probably my favorite thing, though, about Game Time is the Game Time picks. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Game Time picks makes last-minute ticket buying easier than ever by quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS, that's CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. I also want to know how many basketball fans we got out there and how many people think that the Warriors are going to take down the Rockets. Let's go to the trade here. I think the Green Bay Packers right now are the most likely team. If a trade were to end up going down for Kolton Miller, I think the Green Bay Packers would be the team. And I think that the Raiders could potentially get a second-round pick at number 54 overall. Why do I say that? We've already seen a lot of our own Raiders players kind of go to Green Bay, and I think a big reason of that is because of Rich Bisaccia. Another team to really keep in mind is wherever Derek Carr lands. And Derek Carr and Kolton Miller still have a very good relationship. But for a team like Green Bay, their left tackle right now, and I can't think of his name, it's escaping me. He's a young guy. He's 26 years old. He's in the final year of his contract. Miller is an upgrade over him, and it would also be able to protect Jordan Love's blind side. And Love's been a player that's, been battling some injuries over the past few seasons. But also, Kolton Miller is very close to Josh Jacobs, and I almost wonder if Jacobs, the Rich Bisaccia, some of these other past Raiders players that have gone to Green Bay have that connection. Rasheed Walker, that's the name. Rasheed Walker, no disrespect to Walker, who's actually been playing pretty well as a young man. Kolton Miller's just a better offensive tackle, and I think we could get a pick like that at number 54 overall, which, again, that would be the value that I would look for. I'm not saying I would do it. I'm simply saying that this is a trade that I could see happening if the Raiders have if they have no interest whatsoever in extending him, well, then they will end up trading him. That's a promise. Let's go to the next player here. It's going to be Dylan Parham on the offensive line. And this would be one that I really don't want the Raiders to do. I want the Raiders to give Dylan Parham a contract extension. I'm not afraid to admit that. I like Parham. I love his versatility. I think he's a very underappreciated player that's had to deal with a lot of different regimes. But, let's face the facts here. He's been a starter. He's played at left guard. He's played at right guard for 3 seasons, 3 totally different regimes, and he's getting ready to get into another regime. But he's also in the final year of his contract. If I'm the Raiders and I want to take advantage of the highest deal that I possibly can get for Parham, you might want to try to trade him now before the NFL draft, because if you trade him after the draft, I think that his value is going to end up going down. The Raiders sign Alex Kappa, who is a John Spytek guy, to a 2-year, $11 million deal. And when you see some of the other deals that the Raiders made, I mean, it kind of looks like starting potential guard money. And Dylan Parham is a good, versatile player overall. And because he's a versatile player, there will be teams out there that are going to be looking for more linemen that give you some of that versatility. I mean, Parham can play center. Parham can play right guard. Parham can play left guard. He played even right tackle in college. I don't know if he's a tackle in the NFL. Some people might, say he's not even a guard because he's not big enough. He does need to add a little bit of weight. But when I think about teams, moves, a lot of former Raiders are on that Carmen Basillo offensive line with the New York Giants. So here's the trade. The Raiders, you get pick 105. The New York Giants, they have 2 picks in round 3. And their last pick in round 3, I want to say, is at pick 99. It's late in round 3. So they probably look at that as well, that's my 4th round pick. The Giants end up getting Dylan Parham and a 6th round pick at 213. I know some people might think that Parham's just worth a 4th round pick straight up, but you also got to think if the Raiders are moving on from him, you're probably not going to get the deal that you want. You might get a little bit more of a low ball offer. So because of that, I do think that a pick swap needs to be involved in that. Before I get into the final player here on today's show, I did a video earlier in the week, and it was around Armin Membu. And I said, shout out to everybody that DM'd me on Instagram, that was hitting me up and just saying, dude, do you see this report around Membu? And in my mind, that's a real one. Why? Because people knew that I've been talking about my love for Armin Membu for weeks, for months, and me saying that I think that that's a player that the Raiders should draft at number 6. So the people that I know shouted it out, real one down in the chat, because I said, where are my real ones at? I saw Def Halo. I saw Joseph Hammer, Ron Raspberry, Doug Kendall, J Smooth 23. I see you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being a real one. If anybody's asking, Mitch, what's a real one? How about somebody who is a real one? Explain what it is down below. Let's go to the final player here on today's show, and it's going to be Tyree Wilson, the defensive lineman of the Las Vegas Raiders. Another player that I don't want the Raiders to trade. But if we're talking about value, I bet you there's an NFL team out there that goes, I can make Tyree Wilson work. I can make him into something that the Raiders haven't been able to do. And Wilson has got 2 years left on his rookie deal. And after being drafted at number 7 overall, if you're the Raiders and you don't think that you're going to give him a 5th-year option, this is technically, you're kind of going into year 3. It's got to be able to click here a little bit. And for the Raiders, they brought back Malcolm Kuntz. You brought back Adam Butler. Plus the Silver and Black have been looking at, prospects like a Jalen Walker. They've been looking at defensive tackles on the interior, where I look at Tyree and I go, can he be a Caleb Vaughn replacement? Can he be somebody where, we can still line him up at DT, we line him up at defensive end? He hasn't been working out with the Raiders. He's been in the DFW area. A trade doesn't save you any money. You end up eating way more money. So if you end up doing the trade, it better be worth it. The problem is I don't see a team giving the Raiders anything higher than a 4th-round pick. And if you were to ask me which team do I think has the biggest need right now from an edge defensive line standpoint, I believe it's the Atlanta Falcons. You also trade him away to the NFC, which not saying the Raiders would be worried about it. I could see a team maybe like the Chiefs or the Chargers being interested. I would hope the Raiders won't trade Tyree Wilson there. But I'll also say this. If the Raiders end up trading Tyree Wilson, it's because they believe he's just not going to put it together. Because I do think if Tyree Wilson can't put it together with Rob Leonard, Patrick Graham, this coaching staff, who's been able to work with a lot of great defensive linemen, not even great, have been able to help defensive linemen be much better, maybe it's a Tyree Wilson thing. And I hope that that's not the case. So out of all the trades that I showed you, which team offered the best trade? If you think it's the Atlanta Falcons and Tyree Wilson, type Falcons. If you think it's the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aidan O'Connell, type Steelers. What about the Indianapolis Colts trying to get Michael Mayer? Type Colts. The Green Bay Packers going out and trying to get Kolton Miller. The New York Giants trying to get Dylan Parham. I want to know down below which team you thought potentially would offer the best trade. And again, I want to be very, very clear. I'm not sitting up here saying that those are the trades that I would do. I always try to give you my honest opinion when it comes to trades in terms of fair value for the Raiders and a fair value for the other team. When a trade does happen, you already know that I will give my opinion on that deal. If you're looking for any updates from me over the weekend, it's Easter weekend. I'm going to be hanging out with Chuck, hanging out with the fam. Can't wait to do it, quite frankly. Make sure you guys hit me up on social media. I'm going to have more free time over the weekend to answer some questions as well. So if I don't get to some of the questions during a live show, this weekend's going to be a good weekend to hit me up.